Okay, well, thank you all for joining us for our third webinar in our financial wellness series with Gordon Holmes. Tonight, we're going to be talking about 9 basic financial steps assessing current financial status, government benefits. So, Gordon, I'm going to hand it over to you, sir. Take it away. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate you being with us this evening. And of course, Down Syndrome Indiana for hosting this series. A few housekeeping things when we get rolling. First of all, you should be getting thank you email from Jamie Sturkey, our parent advocate and relationship coordinator. And as a part of participating in the series, I'm pleased to make available a free follow-up consultation. Free is in absolutely no cost. And it's as simple as responding to the email that you received from Jamie, indicating that you'd like to take advantage of that. The consultation will be with me personally, either Zoom or in person, whatever is most convenient. And I love meeting with families so that we can put the subject matter and topics that we cover during the series to good work for you and your family, especially your loved one with special needs. So keep that in mind, please. In addition to that, because this is the third in a list of 3 evenings that we've enjoyed together, Tuesday evenings, I'm going to throw questions open to kind of any and all topics that we've covered throughout the series. So don't feel that you're limited to just questions about what we're covering this evening. Feel free to ask questions about, again, what we've covered in the last 2 sessions as well. And I also have received 2 or 3 emails from participants along the way and have been so encouraged by comments, questions, inquiries, this type of thing. I got an email from someone in follow-up to last week's session and with 2 children with special needs. And it was just so heartwarming because they mentioned that they felt like maybe they had happened on to somebody that would not be overwhelmed by their situation. And I want to assure you that after an in-depth focus on special needs issues and planning for the last 25 years, whatever situation you bring, we can help unpack it. We can help figure out what to do with it. And certainly it's an honor to be supportive and helpful in your special needs journey. Again, thanks to Down Syndrome Indiana, Stephanie being with us this evening, Stephanie Garner, just an icon in the special needs community and always so cheerful and so supportive, so thankful for her. Well, let's get started. This evening's workshop is one that's given a little less often, so it's kind of special. And that's because it's a blend of both topics and concepts that apply to parents and families, as well as the consumer themselves. So let me do share screen and we'll bring up the PowerPoint and we'll get started. Let's see here. Okay. There we are. And if someone could be so kind to confirm that we, okay, great, we're on. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Again, 9 basic steps for adults. So they, what we covered this evening is helpful at any age, but you may sense that transition age and older, maybe 12, 13 years of age and older with the concepts that we'll cover this evening. Of course, we're not all things to all people. My team and I toil every day to be supportive and helpful to families. And I'm so thankful for my team. There are four people on our special needs planning team, in addition to myself. So 5 of us total as we seek to help literally thousands of families throughout Indiana and also Kentucky who have a family member with special needs. There is no too young or too old for this planning. So there is no such thing as the ship has sailed or we missed our opportunity or it's too late. Absolutely not. I'm as likely to meet with a family that has a newborn still in the PICU via Zoom for one meeting, and the next meeting, the parents may be in their 70s or 80s, and their adult child with special needs or Down syndrome is in their 40s or 50s. So please know that we serve all age situations, diagnosis situations, and socioeconomic situations. So the common thread is special needs. So let's see here. Okay, so step number 1 of the 9 steps that we'll review this evening is getting a vision for ultimate care needs. In other words, how parents, the family, and the consumer with special needs sees the vision for the future. In some situations, our young adult or adult with special needs remains in residence with the parents indefinitely. And in other situations, there is opportunities to explore being provided with care in a non-family setting. And what's great is that we have different options and that it's not a one-size-fits-all. So based on function level, the needs for care, the familial relationships, etc., we can explore and get a vision for how we want future care to be arranged. There are more opportunities these days, certainly, than there were 25 years ago when I began my focus on special needs planning, and certainly very thankful for that. Government benefits and programs are, of course, included in Future Focus. And we've touched on those during our series, but I suspect there may be some additional questions this evening. From a journey standpoint, sometimes the early government benefits are Medicaid waivers and Medicaid, because there is the opportunity for our young person with special needs to have the Medicaid waiver and disability Medicaid, despite any financial stability that exists within the family. So regardless of a parent's assets or income, the opportunity does exist for a child or dependent with special needs, with some amount of intellectual or developmental delay, this type of thing, to be targeted for a Medicaid waiver. As we have previously discussed, certainly the most popular in Indiana would be the Family Supports Waiver managed through the BEADS offices scattered about the state, and also the Aged and Disabled Waiver, which is in the process of being repackaged into a combination of the Health and Wellness Waiver for our younger consumers with special needs versus the aged and disabled for our older or elderly individuals. So changes are afoot with waivers. If you're confused, then feel free to ask questions, and/or we can cover that as it applies to your situation in the individual consultation that I'm providing for you at absolutely no charge. The things that are changing and where there may be some confusion currently includes the change to the family supports waiver, where some additional benefits previously limited to the aged and disabled waiver have been added, such as vehicle accommodation, house accommodations, this type of thing. Certainly, there are concerns with regards to parents being paid caregivers for our children with special needs. And then the changes occurring with the family supports, or excuse me, with the aged and disabled waiver being split apart into 2 pieces, both of which, at least for now, my understanding, will be managed through the area agencies on aging. So Central Indiana would be SACOA. You may have heard the term SACOA, Central Indiana Council on Aging. And there are a host of area agencies on aging around the state, and it's a totally different distribution system for the aged and disabled, health and wellness, and traumatic brain injury waivers, totally separate from the BEADS offices, the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services offices that work primarily within the scope of the Family Supports Waiver and the CIH, or Community Integration Habilitation Waiver. But as I have reinforced, these benefits are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of our child with special needs. And it usually is most beneficial to embrace them earlier versus later. The other thing I want to distinguish is some people assume that it's all or nothing, meaning that government benefits are you have to have SSI or Social Security, you have to have a Medicaid, you have to have a waiver, etc. Well, the criteria for eligibility for these benefits is not synonymous. And also, depending upon one's level, function level, and or success with employment, it's possible to have some of these benefits in place, but not all of them. And while this makes it perhaps a little more complicated, the flexibility is a blessing in that one can actually thoughtfully decide, excuse me, how much they want or are able to work, and how much income they want or desire to earn, and what benefits are very important to keep in place versus benefits that we may consider letting go of. So as an example, I have families where the young person with special needs may be employed, and we may make a conscious decision to let SSI go. That is to let SSI run out or to drop off while still keeping Medicaid and waiver services. So please understand that, again, these are not all or nothing. It is possible to retain disability Medicaid and Medicaid waiver services, such as the family supports waiver, the health and wellness waiver, etc., while letting Social Security go. And this is part of what we do on a daily basis, is to coach families on the various government benefits and the triggers for keeping and or losing these various benefits, so that informed decisions can be made about what's critically important versus what's less important. And in that manner, one doesn't find out that they had no idea what they were doing and are losing benefits, etc., but making more thoughtful preemptive decisions about them. There's creating a legal structure. And of course, this in most cases means working with an attorney that has expertise in special needs. And I'm really pleased to let you know that we have an informal network of attorneys throughout Indiana, including such areas as West Lafayette, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Evansville, New Albany. And then for those in Louisville, we have 3 attorneys in Louisville. We have 2 attorneys in Lexington. So we are well structured with attorneys that can assist with base estate planning, setting up special needs trusts, also assisting with guardianship issues, or where appropriate, executing a durable power of attorney or healthcare directive. And in addition to that, appealing for the Medicaid waiver you want to pursue. It seems like we always have at least one or a couple of families that are willing to fight for the CIH waiver and appeal a Medicaid declination, and or Social Security attorneys. So we also have attorneys that work in the area of appeals for Social Security decisions. And so we have the legal side well covered, and are very thankful for our highly qualified and dedicated informal arrangements that we have with attorneys throughout Indiana and Kentucky. They are a critical part of the team, and of course for planning. Retirement plan flexibility and options. We just last week touched a little on mistakes that people commonly make, but retirement planning, when it comes to having a dependent with special needs, a little more complicated. There's domino effects with regards to Social Security decisions, etc. And so please don't make retirement planning decisions in a vacuum. Let us help you understand not only the implications on your own Social Security and retirement benefits, but also the effects on your child with special needs, in that every decision that we as parents make has a ripple effect upon our child or dependents with special needs with regards to their Social Security benefits. Please keep in mind, SSI is in most cases not forever. SSI usually fills the void between their age 18 and when we as parents retire, become disabled, or pass away. And so while it may seem like at the time you're applying that SSI is the end all, please know that in most cases there are adult child benefits coming later after SSI, and those benefits are in many cases much more substantial than the SSI benefit that has grown to almost $1,000 as it is. So again, retirement planning, government benefits, making decisions. Let us provide some coaching. Let us help you because once some of these decisions are made, it's next to impossible to revisit them. Health insurance and medical needs. So depending upon the situation, we do see Medicaid, of course, in place in many cases to provide for one's medical needs. An increasing number of our adult consumers with special needs have Medicare as a result of drawing Social Security disability benefits. And so we help families coordinate between Medicare and Medicaid, and then other supplemental plans if appropriate. And then understanding employer benefits. Well, this is two-tiered. Understanding employer benefits certainly applies to the parents, but it also can apply to your consumer with special needs. We have a record number of our individuals with special needs in the workplace, and at an increasing number, they are enjoying some level of employee benefits, whether it's contributions made to a 401k or other benefits. And so kind of another layer of complexity, but we help families work their way through it, making sure that government benefits are retained, that healthcare is provided for, et cetera, and how to integrate benefits that they may become eligible for, even with part-time employment, with the other supports and government benefits that are in place. All right, and the medical treatments related to the health insurance. So I'm going to pause at the end of each of the 9 steps and treat questions. So if there are any questions that anyone has, please feel free to enter it into chat and or unmute yourself. We have 10 participants, so not too big a number. And if you care to unmute and let your question be heard, that's fine. If you're more comfortable with entering it into chat, please do so. Throughout this evening session, I'll be monitoring chat and making sure any questions entered are answered or addressed. So again, if there are any questions about the topics from step number 1, step number 1 speaks to, again, the complexity of planning for the future. There are lots of moving parts, and that's part of why it's such an honor and humbling to help families coordinate all of these various elements to maximize the advantage of their loved one. All right, we have something in chat before we move on to step number 2. Okay, do you change after? Okay, the question is, do you charge after the first consultation? Okay, fair enough. And the answer is, in most cases, we're able to work with families on the basis of product. And the basis of product would be where a product is used in the form of either setting up a trust account to fund the special needs trust, utilizing life insurance, where the trust is a beneficiary, or other life insurance needs a family may have, assisting with IRAs or Roth IRAs, and helping families save for retirement. So there are a variety of financial vehicles that many families need. And so in most cases, through a family being open to allowing me to assist with one or more of these products, that provides an alternate way in which I can be compensated without having to charge a fee. So the answer to the question is, in most cases, I do not charge a fee. Where there is no avenue by which I can be compensated, meaning no use of product or accounts whatsoever, and therefore the only avenue by which I can be compensated is by fee, then I'm certainly open to charging a very reasonable fee for the work that I do with a family. So the benefit in allowing me to assist with product appropriate for the planning process is that if that need exists, then that need could certainly be satisfied with some other advisor. But if a family is open to allowing me to assist in that way, then it allows me to waive my fee so that they have what they need. I can avoid engaging on a fee basis and help keep the cost of getting through the planning process at an absolute minimum. So thank you so much for that very practical question. All right, we're going to move from step 1 to step 2. And again, I invite questions or comments in chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and share with us directly. Okay. Great. Step 2. Review assets, accounts, and titling of assets. So in step number 2, this is a matter of an assessment. That is assessing a family situation with regards to the makeup of assets, property, ownership, etc. And this is important from 2 vantage points. One is any and all accounts and or assets belonging to the individual with special needs, and then any assets and or accounts, or life insurance that are owned by the parents. So we're dealing with parents' assets, we're dealing with the consumer's assets, and what to do. So with regards to the consumer that is receiving benefits, most specifically our means-tested benefits, which of course include Medicaid and by extension Medicaid waiver programs and services, as well as SSI, we have a resource limit of $2,000. So assets, including cash or investments or anything that can be easily converted to cash, need to stay under $2,000 to maintain eligibility for SSI, Medicaid, and Medicaid waiver services. That's the consumer themselves, not the parents. For the parents, it's an assessment of what assets, insurance accounts, various things exist to determine how well they're positioned for financial security in the future, as well as how these assets and or insurance may be effective tools in funding the special needs trust for your loved one with special needs. Personal account structure, accessibility, employer benefits, government benefits, and possible inheritances. So, and that's twofold: inheritances that parents may receive. Those inheritances potentially could be targeted to fund the special needs trust, and then certainly inheritances that may be possible for the consumer with special needs. Because with a $2,000 resource limit, it doesn't bode well or doesn't work well for them to receive an inheritance outright. So as a part of the special needs planning process, we have a step called family communication. And family communication is where I draft a letter that goes from the parents to other family members, letting them know about the planning that they have done and the special needs trust that's in place. So it very subtly, very, very light touch makes them aware of planning done, a special needs trust that exists, and the opportunity to be supportive or helpful by making a gift to the special needs trust. I should mention, because I had a conversation with an associate earlier this afternoon, but special needs trusts are not 501c3s, so please understand that they are not nonprofits, that gifts to a special needs trust do not represent a tax deduction as though one has made a gift to a charity or a nonprofit. However, making a gift to the special needs trust obviously has far-reaching implications for your loved one with special needs. And also, the asset transferred to the trust then is no longer a tax burden to the person making the gift. So if they were receiving interest, dividends, capital gains, or had tax implications of holding that asset, once they have gifted the asset to the trust, then it's no longer a tax liability for them. Personal accounts, structure, accessibility. So we look at how accessible funds are, and people frequently ask about special needs trusts. once you put funds in the special needs trust, I mean, just how accessible are they? Is it like you've thrown them over the fence and you won't see them again, or that type of thing? So please know that funds in a special needs trust are readily accessible, typically accessible by electronic transfer, also by check writing services, where the trustee would have a checkbook, literally able to write checks off of the assets in the trust, this type of thing. Debit card as well. So there are multiple ways to access funds that are held by a special needs trust. Okay, step 3 is a family meeting. Important to, I should pause. Any questions with regards to step number 2? My apologies. Step number 2. Okay. All right, that includes government benefits. If you want to pick my brain on government benefits this evening, feel free to do so. Step 3, family meeting, having a meeting to discuss the vision for the future care needs. Looks like we have probably 3 generations here meeting around the table, discussing concerns and future care options. It's interesting because young families that I start out with, it's nearly always a grandparent or grandparents that are the selected guardians or caregivers if something happens to the parents. And then, I don't know, 10 or 15 years later, it becomes the siblings of the parents. And then 10 or 15 years later, it often becomes adult siblings of the child with special needs. So with a 25+ year focus on special needs, we're seeing generation after generation coming up to be helpful, etc. It's so very encouraging. But it's good to get family together to discuss these issues. We also discussed last week having the conversation with family member or members that you're seeking to serve in your special needs estate plan, and how important it is to do your homework and be prepared for that conversation, not just kind of drop it on them without thinking it through, or again, being well prepared. The 4 things that I had mentioned before, it's good to do, or to assure the individual that the government benefits you put in place that help will be there for them, that there will be a funded trust to pay for what the government can't or won't, that there's going to be a letter of intent, a caregiver guide, a manual, so to speak, and then last but not least, that there's a team of people between direct service providers, case management, medical personnel, education, special education, and on it goes, that there's going to be lots of help in a teaming way going forward if something happens and they step up. It really helps the conversation go so much better with those encouraging comments. Number 4, speaking of team, create a team. So a financial professional, someone such as myself, whether you work with me or someone else, just please make sure special needs is what they work with on a daily basis. In the last 25 years, things have only gotten more complex, and it's become more important than ever to work with someone. Otherwise, they don't know what they don't know. Or if they're attempting to be helpful, but they don't know enough, mistakes can easily be made. And I know this because families come to me when things are, when they're struggling or things that are a bit of a mess. And sometimes it's someone that has attempted to be helpful, but they were not adequate in their experience and or skill level. So important to have someone that really understands these issues. And then the attorney, an accountant. So we have accountants that we work with as well, and often make referrals of families to CPAs and accountants for everything from tax preparation to dealing with complex tax issues. And we have CPAs here in the greater Indianapolis area, Southern Indiana, and also down in Kentucky. So not quite as robust a network as we do attorneys, but nevertheless, we do have CPAs to assist families with. This could include the need to file a tax return for the trust. And maybe that's something that you're not familiar with. And so again, whenever tax issues come up, then we're delighted to help people get connected with a CPA that has some experience with special needs. Disability attorneys, we talked about that. Everything from special needs attorneys to those that will help appeal government benefit decisions. I'm really excited. I think I may have mentioned last week, but we, after fighting for over 2 years, we had a family finally get approval for SSI. And that's really, really exciting. Sometimes it just takes pure determination to get back up when you're knocked down and to keep fighting the fight. Again, winning and getting these benefits in place is incredibly helpful. So feel free to put any questions in chat or unmute yourself if there are questions about these areas, attorneys, accountants, and also health professionals. I know I'm very thankful for the health professionals that assist my wife and I with our child with special needs. A combination of several specialists really make a huge difference in trying to maintain stability with healthcare and wellness. And again, we're very, very thankful for our health professionals. Moving on to number 5, okay, get additional resource support. So first up on the list is local nonprofits. And of course, that's an obvious lead into Down Syndrome Indiana, and then other nonprofits that are out there. I have the blessing of working with numerous nonprofit organizations, very thankful for their mission and what they do to support and help the special needs community. By the fact that you're on this evening, you're obviously aware of Down Syndrome Indiana. We're just so blessed with the numerous nonprofits that exist, everything from support groups to statewide organizations to be helpful in our special needs journey. Then government agencies, and government agencies are at the county level, like Medicaid offices, the state level with regards to the BEADS offices and area agencies on aging, the federal level for Social Security, SSI, and Social Security disability and survivor benefits and so forth. So we help families get connected with the appropriate government agency. We have contacts statewide so that we can kind of cut through the barriers and help families get connected quickly and just try to reduce the frustration. At the federal level with Social Security, it seems like at least several times a week, I'm coaching families on engaging with Social Security, both about what benefits should be available, which is not always what people are receiving, but then how to apply and support with the application and approval process. The question has come up, do special needs trusts work if a child needs to move to a family member outside of Indiana? And the answer is yes. Special needs trusts do work. Special needs trusts are based on federal legislation. If someone does move out of state and establishes residency outside of state and will be staying in a different state, then we usually will help one get connected with a special needs attorney in their locale, their new locale, to review the special needs trust document to see if anything needs to be updated to reflect laws pertinent to that respective state. And then, of course, we also assist families in getting connected with the appropriate government agencies, what the Medicaid waiver environment is, et cetera, in their new location. But yes, special needs trust can be set up in Indiana. You can move to some other state and the trust remains valid, as well as any funding that may be in the trust as well. So thank you so much for that question. I appreciate it. Then we have network groups. Network groups can be anything from special needs Facebook groups to school groups, foundations, etc. So these days, with everyone kind of tuned in electronically, there are more network groups than ever. And I frequently do workshops on a virtual basis for Facebook and other special needs groups. I'm always happy to do so. Jamie Sturkey, our parent advocate and relationship coordinator, coordinates with numerous both nonprofits, network groups, and also school groups. I do workshops for school groups, that is to assist families, parents that have children with an IEP or 504 that need to access benefits, need to plan for the future, etc. So I do what we call parent information nights for school corporations. I'll be over in Hamilton Southeastern tomorrow evening, in fact. So there are, but we work with, I don't know, probably somewhere between 60 and 80 school corporations and special needs cooperatives between Indiana and Kentucky. And so I frequently am doing information and education programs similar to this series, whether a series virtually or in person, to help parents. So if you know of a school that would benefit from the information that we're covering in this series, please let us know, and or let Jamie Sturkey, our parent advocate, know, because we're happy to expand the education that we're providing to help families. All right. And we'll get the slide to advance. Whoops, there we go. Government benefits. Okay. So government benefits may help provide medical treatment, supplies, equipment, financial assistance, etc. Medicaid, as you know, is primarily healthcare. It also can be housing. It can be Medicaid waiver services. So Medicaid is a critical element. If your child with special needs has Medicaid and SSI, but no Medicaid waiver, then actually a different form of Medicaid comes with a waiver, and we'd be happy to talk with you about that. Typically, the form of Medicaid that comes with being on a Medicaid waiver is the preferable type of Medicaid to have. So again, if your child is 18 or over, receiving SSI, but you've not pursued a Medicaid waiver, we should talk. There may be a more thorough or comprehensive form of Medicaid coverage available for them. We have something in chat. We've got someone mentioning a school, specifically Rock Creek in Sellersburg, and I am familiar with Rock Creek. I'm almost embarrassed to say that it's probably been 10 years since I last did a workshop at Rock Creek. And so I'm going to write this down as a reminder to me, because that's a private school. It is a wonderful school down there in Sellersburg. And so I've made a note of that, and we're going to, as a result of your kindness in mentioning that, we're going to reconnect with Rock Creek and see if perhaps in the next school year, we can get a workshop set up. Would love to come there in person. With having an office in Louisville, just a half hour away, that would be convenient. Usually the Southern Indiana, like everything from Harrison to New Albany and Jeffersonville and Sellersburg and Scottsburg and Henryville and so forth. Usually I make those stops en route from my Louisville office back to Indianapolis. So it's so easy to stop and provide a workshop en route back up to Indy. So thank you so much for that. And yes, we'll be reconnecting with Rock Creek. Okay. Oh, they live in Scottsburg. I love it. Yeah, Scottsburg is amazing. In fact, the special education director for Scottsburg schools is homegrown. A young man that became the special education director at only about the age of 30. It's an incredible story. But he literally went through Scottsburg Public Schools, graduated, went off to college, and a few years later came back to be the special education director right there in his hometown. So really an inspiring story right there in Scottsburg. Wonderful. Thank you again for sharing. So then SSI and SSDI, and as we discussed before, sometimes it's either or, sometimes it's both. it's possible for a young person to be receiving SSI as well as SSDI. These benefits can vary anywhere from $600 and something a month to about $2,600 per month, depending upon the family situation or setup. I love to sit down with families and talk about their Social Security benefits, have them pull out their Social Security letters. I had such a meeting earlier today with a family dealing with an inheritance situation. So the young adult in his 30s with special needs, his father passed away, and his father was generous in leaving him an inheritance. Well, as you can imagine, that inheritance, which is in this case around $65,000, is a little more than Medicaid thinks the individual should have while continuing to receive government benefits. So we're going to assist that family with reestablishing, because Medicaid is actually pulled away and waiver services have been terminated and so forth as a result of this inheritance. So we need to fix that situation so that the inheritance no longer prevents this 34-year-old with special needs from having Medicaid and waiver services. And as I mentioned before, when it comes to special needs planning, there is a fix for practically everything. It's how much you know and what experiences you've had in dealing with different situations. But that young person, that 34-year-old, will be back on their Medicaid and back on their waiver here within the next couple of months, and will resolve the situation with regards to the inheritance. I'm sure his father was well-meaning and had hoped that what he left for his son with special needs would enhance the quality of life. Well, a few steps and a couple of months later, that's exactly what's going to happen, fortunately. Unfortunately, without planning, without working with the situation, Medicaid and waiver services literally could be lost. Tragic, especially when the mother is older and trying to step up and provide those services at at her older age is a huge challenge. But I love having conversations with families about SSI and SSDI because every situation is like a puzzle, and unpacking it and figuring out what opportunities exist and what we can do to help maximize benefits is powerful. Do not assume that because Social Security did it, that it's correct, or that your loved one is receiving everything that they're entitled to. You would be surprised. Mistakes that are made and corrections that need to be made, etc. Love helping people with that. Medicare comes with SSDI. So we have plenty of our young people in the special needs population becoming Medicare eligible in their 20s. I did say in their 20s. And so helping families work through those situations is powerful. Social Security retirement on parents' part, definitely implications for your child with special needs as to when you decide to retire, when you decide to start drawing Social Security benefits. Let me provide some coaching for you so that you're not down the road and look back saying, oh, if I'd only known, or this type of thing. Let me help you get it right up front. And what's really exciting with Social Security is if you have an adult child with special needs that may eventually draw off of your record, we're literally seeing family situations. In fact, I was meeting with a family earlier today where we expect the Social Security benefits between the adult child, the mother, and the father to total in excess of $6,000 a month. You heard me right, in excess of $6,000 a month in Social Security benefits coming into a single household. It's incredible, but it's not on automatic. It takes some planning to get all of that in place. Survivor family benefits, we're looking there at going beyond a parent or parents retiring and parents passing away. So that creates a survivor benefit. So believe it or not, if your understanding is that if you have young kids, that they get a survivor benefit, and that is accurate, that's correct. But what comes as a shock to many families is that the survivor benefit that normally terminates when a child reaches age 18 or finishes high school. In the case of a young person with special needs, that survivor benefit can actually be lifetime. That survivor benefit, again, can actually be lifetime with cost of living increases. And we see survivor benefits of anywhere from about $1,200 to almost $3,000 a month. Very substantial benefits, but they're not always paid out. They're not always claimed. There are some situations where literally a young person with a disability or special needs is entitled to draw those level of benefits, and they're not receiving them. Survivor family benefits, yeah, county, state programs. So, of course, there's special needs assistance program and other, such as SNAP and other programs that, as well as housing subsidies, et cetera, that can sometimes be utilized. But these government benefits are literally worth a fortune. So I would encourage you to, to embrace, take advantage of. And if things progress to the point where you don't need them or your child does not qualify for them, then we can thoughtfully let some benefits go. But again, extremely valuable. Okay, step 7. Here we are talking about the legal side of things. And first up are wills. And wills are so very important. Your opportunity to specify who's in charge, who your executor is. Also, who's going to be guardian for minor children or children you've gone to court to obtain guardianship for. Who's going to get your stuff. There's just so much in a will. So important. Trusts, and super important, of course, when it comes to a child with special needs, having a special needs trust. And we've got several types of special needs trusts here that we'll mention in a moment. Advanced medical directives. If you have guardianship, then you're automatically in charge of the person, their business affairs, their money, et cetera. In the absence of guardianship, your adult child with special needs should execute an advanced medical directive, a power of attorney document, so that in the event of incapacity or illness, that you can be in charge of their affairs. Please understand, in the absence of guardianship, if you don't have these documents executed, then no one's in charge. And you may have to go to court to get an emergency guardianship in place. So again, let us help guide you as to what options are appropriate, what steps should be taken. Special needs trusts. Special needs trusts, I am just so thankful every day for OBRA 93 and legislation that was passed that brought about special needs trusts. We've got first-party trusts, first-party special needs trusts to be funded with the individual's own assets, like the 34-year-old that got the inheritance. It's possible to set up what's called a first-party special needs trust. That inheritance can be set aside, and instantly that 34-year-old is seen as not having that asset and becomes once again eligible for Medicaid, Medicaid waiver services, et cetera. Third-party trust, that's for everyone else's money, parents, grandparents, and anyone else that wants to be generous. Self-settled. Self-settled trust, that's a trust typically funded with one's own money, and a person can actually set that up for themselves, not be the trustee, but they can set it up for themselves. And then a Miller Trust. Miller Trust is what we use often where an individual with special needs has employment and the income being generated is too much to maintain Medicaid. So in many cases, setting up a Miller Trust enables them to maintain their eligibility for Medicaid, Medicaid waiver services, et cetera. And then ABLE accounts, and I know we've spent time on ABLE. If there are any questions about ABLE accounts, I had someone that came over to talk to me today, and an associate, and the client had said, well, I want to make a contribution to an ABLE account because you get a big tax deduction. Well, reality, at least here in Indiana, is you do not get a tax deduction for making a contribution to an ABLE account. You do, however, potentially become eligible for a tax credit at the state level That is what I said, an actual state income tax credit. So that credit just started 7 weeks ago, and that credit allows one who makes a contribution to an ABLE account to enjoy a tax credit equal to 20% of that contribution, and that applies to the first $2,500 contributed. So if one contributed $2,000, that's a $400 state income tax credit. $2,500, a $500 state income tax credit. And that credit goes right on your state income tax return. And the state gives you 20% on the first $2,500 or up to $500 of state income tax credit. So really exciting to see what's possible with ABLE accounts. Again, the limit on what you can put in ABLE is up this year. It's up to $18,000. And please don't forget that if you have 529 funds that you're not likely to spend on education purposes through the end of next year, through December 31st, 2025, it's possible to transfer those ABLE account balances over to, or excuse me, the 529 account balances over to an ABLE account, where it's almost unlimited as to what the funds can be used for and withdrawn for, tax and penalty free. So if there are questions, feel free to put it in chat. I'm more than happy to follow up on this on an individual basis as well. Step 8, special needs trusts and ABLE accounts. So a question was asked earlier, if you move out of state, is the special needs trust still good? And I confirmed that it is. It may be wise in time to have it reviewed by an attorney in the new state, but simply moving out of state does not invalidate a special needs trust. So how does it protect government benefit eligibility? Assets that are deposited in a properly set up special needs trust do not count against the $2,000 resource limit. So it's possible for hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to accumulate in or be gifted to a special needs trust. And those funds are there to help provide care for and enhance the quality of life for your loved one with special needs, but in no way does it undermine their continued eligibility for these very valuable government benefits. So as a special needs community, it's about as close to having our cake and eat it too as we're ever going to get. Okay, so a question has come in. Guessing you can have more than one type of special needs trust, like a first party Andy Miller's trust, or Miller's trust. And the answer is yes. There are a few situations where there may be 3. There may be a Miller trust, first and third party trust. And it's not that everyone needs all of these trusts. It really boils down to what problems we're trying to solve, and whether the problems that we're trying to solve are resource-based or income-based as to which of these options we consider utilizing. A trust can provide, the middle point there, can provide for most all of the needs that an individual with special needs has. In most cases, we try not to compete with government benefits. That is, we try not to supplant or take the place of government benefits, but certainly supplement, augment, enhance the quality of life and care for our loved one. The special needs trust can be attorney drafted. You can utilize a pooled trust such as the Arc of Indiana Trust. The Arc of Indiana has Master Trust 1 and Master Trust 2. And Master Trust 1 is a third-party trust. Master Trust 2 is a first-party trust. So pooled trusts are certainly an option where you do not want to be the trustee while you're living, and perhaps there's no family member that could serve as trustee after you're gone. So certainly something to consider there. Okay, the care provider has been identified. Identifying someone is so very important, and I know we've touched on that more than once. How do you assure the kind of care that will be needed in the future? Well, as you might imagine, what's coming is step number 9, the letter of intent. And the letter of intent is a caregiver guide. Letter of intent is what you intend for family to know about your loved one with special needs if you're not here to articulate it. In the event of incapacity, illness, being away, or passing away, the letter of intent is your gift to those that follow in your footsteps in seeking to provide care and support for your loved one with special needs. The letter of intent that we provide families has roughly 38 pages, so it's very thorough, and I'm really pleased that we provide that as a part of the special care, special needs planning service, help families put this together. We have it in printed form, like a booklet, where you just write right into the pages and fill it out. It's also available as a fillable Word document where you can click edit and type into the document and save it each time you add data to it, so that it's there for family if something happens to you. This is one of those where parent or parents have an auto accident, and whoever you have designated to be guardian and or caregiver, steps into the role suddenly, and they're desperate for information, they're desperate for help. And the letter of intent is you're speaking to them in their newfound role of responsibility for your loved one that has special needs. But we're so pleased to provide this tool to families to build the document and to customize the care that you want for your child with special needs, right down to the pew at church that they sit in, the clubs or organizations they participate in, the nonprofits that they attend events with, the traveling that they do, what keys them up, calms them down, a history of their immunizations, all medical contacts, medications that they take, upcoming medical appointments, Social Security contacts, Medicaid contacts, waiver contacts, direct service provider, on and on it goes. So again, let us help you build a letter of intent. Family will be incredibly grateful if something happens to you. So the teaming effect is really key to the special needs planning process. It's important to have a state and special needs attorney. I'm so thankful for the network of special needs attorneys we have throughout Indiana and Kentucky. And then a financial professional, such as myself, to work in coordination with the attorney. I just met with the family late this afternoon, and the mother made a special point of saying, I'm so glad that you coordinate with the attorney and keep us on track with what we need to do next, keep the process moving, this type of thing. Your lives are busy, your plates are full. It simply doesn't work to be given a tip or two and then you take it from there. Some hand-holding is welcome in the process, and step by step we help families get to the finish line. Let's see. Okay. MassMutual, of course, has special care, and that's what I participate in. It's a nationwide network. So if you have family members or know of individuals with special needs in other states or locations, we can help. So in summary, find quality professionals to assist you. Remember, you're the expert about your own situation, and the focus is upon lifetime care and quality of life. This is my contact information if you want to take a quick photo of that. This both features the Indianapolis office location, which is near 96th and College on the north side of Indianapolis, and then my Louisville office location at 9900 Corporate Campus Drive on the east side of Louisville. I'm usually in the Louisville office about 5 days a month, usually 4 weekdays and a Saturday, and the balance of time I'm in the Indianapolis office. Well, as you can tell, we have reached the end of the PowerPoint this evening. Last week, we took right up until 8 o'clock So I'm thankful that we will yield some time back to you this week. But before we sign off, are there any questions about anything that has been covered in the last 3 weeks in the financial wellness series that in cooperation with Down Syndrome Indiana and Stephanie Garner, we've been able to put together? Any questions at all? Either unmute yourself or put something into chat. We'll monitor for just a moment and then we'll let you go. Any questions at all, please?
Gordon, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. That way, if folks have questions that they want to ask without being on the recording, they can do so.